What is up, though, Lions fans? It's your boy Chef, and we are back, and you already know what time it is. It is time for the YAK Pod, episode number 48, and we got a lot to go ahead and get into today because Lions Twitter has been a buzzing. But before we get into that, we got a little business that we got to handle. I'm gonna ask you to go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead, hit that little button down there, smash that like button, turn on your notifications, and make sure that you share. Do all that sharing good stuff, all the community and social media, and letting everybody know what happens going on around here, because when you do that, it gets the algorithm on my side. And if you're enjoying this content, you want that algorithm on my side. Let's go ahead and get right into it. As we should know by now, Brock Wright has been re-signed. The offer sheet, the 3 years, $12 million has been matched. Brock Wright will not be taking his talents to San Francisco. He will not be going over to the West Coast. He will be staying on the East Coast in Detroit. Now, there have been mixed emotions about this situation, and as I said, Lions Twitter has been a buzzing. I generally don't go down the Twitter rabbit hole or the X rabbit hole, but I had to today. I was just bored, so I was just bored, and I just went down the rabbit hole and engaged with some of the fans and some of the anonymous accounts. And there were mixed emotions about Brock Wright being re-signed. Shout out to my guy, Al Carson, football guy Al on Twitter. He pointed out that Brock Wright is slightly more athletic based on the RAS scores than Sam Laporta. Now, was he saying that Brock Wright is better than Sam Laporta? No, that's not what he was saying. He wasn't saying that at all. But what he was saying, because some people are acting like Brock Wright is just this bum who should never be paid anything more than veterans minimum, and that the Lions should not have re-signed him. They should have just gone and got a UDFA or addressed the position in the draft. Now, again, we talked about continuity before. Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, they talked about continuity. You want to upgrade at every position that you can, but when you have a solid backup player, and we're going to talk about backups a little bit later, but when you have a solid backup player, they have value on the team. A lot of fans are not really understanding value of players. A lot of fans are just playing Madden. And this is real life. This isn't Madden. This is like, players have value outside of what their stats are, what their numbers are in Madden. So there was one particular argument that I saw out there that said we overpaid for him. We shouldn't have paid him. We should have just signed a UDFA and that would have been an upgrade because Brock Wright was a UDFA. So automatically, because Brock Wright was a UDFA, another UDFA who's never played in the NFL would be an instant upgrade. All right, man. I don't get it. I don't get it, because it wasn't like we're naming specific players that we believe that would be projected to be better than Brock Wright. No, it was just any UDFA, because it's a UDFA tight end. That person's going to be better than Brock Wright because Brock Wright is not worth $4 million per year. And again, I've already said that NFL contracts are not real. I don't know the guarantees. I haven't seen that yet. But $4 million a year, when your cap is like 250, over 250 million, it's not a lot. It's not a lot. And for a quality backup, even if he gets most of it as a signing bonus. I mean, if you give him a $10 million signing bonus, he's only on the books for $2 million after that, right? Because the signing bonus they get all of that at signing. And it's not on the annual cap like that. So that could be what they're doing. We don't know. But Brock Wright's value to this team, as I said before, in the blocking scheme, he is a solid backup to Sam Laporta. He's a solid number 2 tight end when you want to go 2 tight end sets. He's solid, man. He's solid. He won us a game. He won us a game. Again, because he is more athletic than people give him credit for. Right? He's more athletic than Sam Laporta. Slightly. Based on the RAS scores, Sam Laporta's was a 9.02. Brock Wright's was a 9.21. So not so much more athletic, but technically more athletic. And again, I'm not saying he's better. I'm just saying he's slightly more athletic based on the relative athletic score or the RAS test. So, if we're upset about re-signing Brock Wright, we just shouldn't be upset about re-signing Brock Wright. I mean, again, and this is another situation. This is another situation that we're talking about today. We're talking about our Lions fans too quick to turn on former players. Shout out to Detroit Sportscast, Detroit Sportscast on Twitter. Shout out my guy John Macaroon, the Doc. You know what I mean? Does a great job on that podcast. That was the question he posed. He posed this question because of the whole CJ GJ situation, where CJ GJ sent out a tweet in response to some Lions fans that Detroit fans are quick to turn, but I'm going to hush up. That's what he said. Detroit fans are quick to turn, but I'm going to hush up. And you got some fans that are like, no, we don't turn. We're not quick to turn. But I think, listen, the whole Detroit Rams thing that was brought up to me. I absolutely hate the Detroit Rams situation. I did not like it at the time. I do not like it now. I understand why certain sections of the fan base wanted to root for Matthew Stafford, but again, I'm a Detroit Lions fan. I'm not a Matthew Stafford fan. We have our favorite players. If Barry Sanders were to go, and I was like 17 at the time when Barry Sanders retired, so I don't know what I would have done if Barry decided that he wanted to go to another team. I'd have been like, Barry Sanders just went to another team. No. Barry Sanders just went to another team. He's dead to me. No, I wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't have said that. Barry Sanders, like I said, he's my football dad. Like, he's my dad when it comes to football. I don't care. I don't care. I'm not his son. He didn't birth me. But when it comes to football, Barry Sanders is my father. He's the person that I looked up to. He's the person that he's the reason I wanted to play football. He's the reason I played running back. So basically he is very responsible for my journey in football, my fanship, my participation in the game. That's all credit to Barry Sanders. So like Megatron, obviously there were rumors that he was going to come back out of retirement and he was going to go play for somebody else. And at that time, and I guess still now, I was, it's just diehard. I'm not rooting for anybody except for the Lions. But if it was a Calvin or a Barry, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know what I would have done. But those are the only two guys that it really would have hurt me if they went to another team. Unfortunately, neither one of them did. Unfortunately, they ended their careers early. But selfishly, like I said, fortunately for me, I didn't have to wrestle with that reality. So I I was never like a really big Stafford guy anyway. I was always a proponent of too many turnovers in big situations, not enough wins against teams that had winning records. So all that's been my thing with Matthew Stafford. So when he left, and the way that he left, and then like after the playoff game when he came back and he was like, yeah, I'm happy for those guys, and like he went out of his way to like just disregard the city, disregard the fans. So I was, like I said, when he left, the way that he left, it was like enemy territory to me, because he asked out. He didn't have any belief in Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes. He didn't have belief in Brad Campbell. You know what I mean? You gotta have belief in Brad Campbell. You gotta have that grit. All right. So he didn't have that, and so I was just like, forget him. Pretty much. That's just the way that I was when he left. But the Detroit Rams thing was very ridiculous. It was very ridiculous because I lived in Atlanta for some time, and the Lions were bad, and I tried like one Sunday. I was just like, I'm gonna root for the Falcons. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, and I lived in the city. I lived in Atlanta for 9 years. I lived there. Like, I had all the right. I'm like an honorary ATLian. You understand what I'm saying? Man, I could not bring myself. I tried like for an entire. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. It wasn't an entire Sunday. I watched a game, and it was probably like maybe a quarter, maybe the first quarter, and you know what I'm saying. We had Michael Vick. Now, I loved Vic. I'm not even gonna lie. I would watch the Falcons to just watch Vic. It's like, watching the Ravens to just watch Lamar. But just watching Vic, but rooting for the Falcons, go Falcons. I was like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, man. It hurt my Detroit pride. You know what I mean? To try to root for another team. I'm an honorary member of Chiefs Kingdom. Because one of the former players is a friend of mine. But again, when the Lions played the Chiefs, there was no question. And then so I became an honorary member, I think after their first Super Bowl or whatever. But it's just like, it's hollow to me. It's hollow to be like, yeah, the Chiefs won a Super Bowl, and I have no connection. I have a small connection. I have a small connection to the team. I have no connection to the city. So the Detroit Rams thing is foreign to me, because it's just like, there's no connection to the team. None whatsoever. And someone tried to tell me that the Detroit Lions fans don't sell out, or they don't turn on their former players, because Meyer, a corporation whose responsibility it is to make money. That's what Meyer does. They're a corporation. They make money. They sell things to make money. So because Meyer was selling Detroit Rams t-shirts, that makes every point moot. the Detroit Lions fans, do not turn on their players, their former players, because Meyer sold t-shirts. That's what I got. This is why I don't do Twitter. Because Meyer sold t-shirts, and that makes the Detroit Rams thing as valid, because Meyer sold it. Because a corporation whose number one goal is to make money saw something that they could exploit, and they exploited it. But that means that the fans, they don't. Bro, I don't know. I got nothing, man. I was told that it was a moot point because the people whose job it is to make money saw an opportunity to make money. They saw an opportunity to exploit. I'm going to call it a weakness in the fan base. Like, I can understand rooting for Stafford, wanting Stafford to be successful. But then it was like, for me, because we had draft picks which were hanging in the balance, our picks were directly affected by what Matthew Stafford did. I wanted the Rams to go home very early. I didn't want them to be in the playoffs. I wanted them to have a losing record because picks. My team was rebuilding at the time. Picks were important, especially now that we know who and what Brad Holmes is, and we know about that down Holmes cooking, and we know how he gets down in that draft kitchen. Definitely wanted the picks. Definitely better picks. Definitely. Imagine the players we could have gotten. The players that we got were great, but imagine some of them we could have gotten. We could have gotten some other people. We might have. Who knows? But with those other players, like, not saying don't get the Amon-Ra St. Browns and the Penei Sewells. I'm not saying don't get them, but I'm saying now you get a couple other pieces that you couldn't get because you were picking later. That's what I'm saying. We might be singing a different tune. We might have gone to that Super Bowl and won, because I'm gonna say, and I'm not trying to, because I wasn't right. so I can't say that I was right, but I did say that the Detroit Lions and the Kansas City Chiefs opening day game was a preview of the Super Bowl matchup. I said that at the beginning of the season when they announced the game. I said that the Kansas City Chiefs and the Detroit Lions would be playing in the Super Bowl. I was 30 minutes wrong. Some people like to say 5 minutes. I was 30 minutes wrong. I was wrong by 30 minutes. I'm not saying I know the future, and if I was right, it just would have been a guess, because obviously nobody knows the future, but that would have been a pretty good guess. So then the CJ stuff with, like, listen, the argument, CJ talked a bunch of stuff, he didn't back it up, he didn't do anything. Listen. CJ was injured. Everybody, all the shows, all the podcasts that I consume, maybe your show or your podcast was different. And these are my opinions, right? And I give my opinions. I don't shy away from giving my opinion. That's why I have a podcast, because I have an opinion on the Detroit Lions. All the stuff that I was seeing was so positive about CJGJ becoming a Detroit Lion. All the stuff I was seeing, everybody was happy. Everybody was loving it. Everybody was feeling themselves like, yo, we're going to go far this year because we have the guy that led the league in interceptions in only 12 games. And everybody, like, when training camp reports came out about how chippy he was and how infectious his attitude was, and just the leadership in the locker room and all these things, everybody was loving it. Everybody was loving it. And then the ski masks, everybody was loving the ski masks. Bro, ski masks were sold out. The blue ski masks were sold out on Amazon. That means people bought them. People showed up to the game. And just because we lost to the Seattle Seahawks, which ultimately affected nothing because we went to the NFC Championship game, and people were jumping ship and people were talking about how the ski masks were a bad idea and blah, 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 blah. Let's just imagine we had won that game. Now, what are you going to say? I mean, there's two moments, really two moments. CJGJ got hurt in that game. We lost that game. So the ski masks were a bad idea. Cursed, I've heard. CJGJ battled back. He battled back. That injury in the second game of the season that he played through the entire game because it happened in the first quarter. So he played the entire game with a torn pec. And that is supposed to be a season-ending injury. So first of all, he played with the whole thing for the better part of 4 quarters. Then he came back early and played in 3 more games. Now, remember, a season is 17 games. You also have to, in those 17 games, especially in the secondary, which is a big communication unit, you have to be playing in games with your teammates to be on the same page with them. There's only so much that film study can do. So you have to know the right rotations, you have to know the right coverages, you have to know where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be, when the call is this, when the call is that, right? You have to know all these things. We talked about continuity earlier. So it becomes second nature when you've been doing it, right? Teams build. I don't remember what team it was. I think it was the Patriots. The Patriots didn't care. Yeah, I believe it was the Patriots, right? When they were winning Super Bowls. They didn't care what they looked like in September. But December, January, and then ultimately February. That's what they cared about. So CJGJ only got 2 of those games in September. And then the next game he played was in January. That accounts for nothing in some fans' minds. It accounts for nothing. His injury accounts for nothing. He's a bum. And he talked a bunch of smack, couldn't back it up. So now he's injured. Comes back early. Plays in the playoffs. He talked smack to Baker Mayfield and backed it up. Picked him off. Some people think, well, because it was just a tipped interception. He was in that place. He was in the right place because he did film study. He was in the right place. He told Baker Mayfield he watched a bunch of film. When we won that game and he had like flipped him the ball and everything, and I didn't see anything negative. So we won that game. I saw nothing negative. We're up 20-7 in the NFC Championship game. He waves to the fans. And that is such a crime. He waves to the fans. It's such a crime because we're about to go up 21-7. We just scored. They are punching the 49ers directly in the mouth. This was before halftime. They were punching the 49ers directly in the mouth. So somehow, CJGJ waving at the fans before halftime was the thing that turned it all the way around. Nothing that the Lions offense did with the turnovers, with the drop passes, none of that was the cause for us losing the NFC Championship game. No, it was CJGJ waving at the fans and also getting a very, very costly, extremely costly. It was so costly that personal foul penalty when he chest bumped Deebo Samuel and Deebo Samuel flopped. That penalty was so costly. What would have happened if we scored on that drive? I mean, what the final score? Oh, I'm sorry, we did score on that drive. we scored on that drive. What did it cost us? It cost us 15 yards. We had to start the drive 15 yards back, and then we scored 7. We didn't score 3. It did not negatively affect us. If we had gone for a 2-point conversion at that time and didn't get it, then that somehow would have been CJGJ's fault. Like, oh, because he got that penalty, Dan Campbell decided to go for 2. No, Dan Campbell decided to go for 2 because that's what Dan Campbell wanted to do. That wasn't on CJGJ. It wasn't on him. Stay out that man's mentions. Why are you in his mentions? I'm seeing fans say, well, we forgot about him. If you forgot about him, leave him alone. Leave him alone. He's just not just coming out of thin air going, hey, the Detroit fans are quick to turn, but I'm gonna hush up. He's been seeing it. And someone was like, well, he makes millions of dollars and he's got to be thick-skinned. Well, he also has the right to reply if you're going to be in his mentions. If you're going to be in his mentions, why can't he reply? Why can't he say something? I mean, if someone was in my mentions all day talking stuff to me, I'd be tired of it too. That's what happens. Humans say things. It's not like he went off the deep end, it harmed someone, harmed himself. It's nothing. He replied. That's it. But to mischaracterize CJGJ as a failure because he was injured for most of this season is a mischaracterization. It's wild. That is wild. That's wild, man. But that's what I think. You let me know what you think in the comments below. After you have smashed the like button, because if you didn't smash it on the way in, I need you to smash it on the way out. If you didn't subscribe on the way in, I need you to subscribe on the way out. And if you've already subscribed, I appreciate you. And if you already shared, I appreciate you. Let's keep on doing it. Let everybody know what is going on in this miraculous, lovely kitchen. I got stuff in the back. You know what I'm saying? This shoulder, that shoulder. I don't know. It is what it is. But it's all the time we got for today. And as always, we are here Monday through Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern, barring any technical difficulties. And until next time, peace.